Hi, welcome to the lecture on EnvAdapt37 animals. Now on this last video on the thermal relations, we are going back where we started, on the ectotherms and how they can produce heat and how they can maintain the temperature in certain organs, like the bumblebees were needed certain temperature in the flying muscles so they can fly. But let's start in the vertebrates. We have some warm-blooded fish that are having certain organs that are endothermic. And some of these are large athletic predators that are swimming very fast. Tunas, lamnic shark, like the white shark, and billy. Heat to maintain some tissues endothermic. And for example, in the tuna, they are heating up the red swimming muscles. And from the energy section, we learned that red muscles were those that having more myoglobin. So there's oxygen stores. And then there is more mitochondria, which means that there is more oxidative catabolism. And that means that there's also more heat production. But also we have learned that in the aquatic environment, if you produce any heat in your body, you will easily lose it. But in these tunas, they have these muscles are deep inside the animal, and the blood in the arteries is heated with the countercurrent heat exchange. So the same mechanism that we were having in the legs and arms. So in our cases, the blood in the artery was cooled down before it goes in the fingertips. But now it's doing the opposite. It's going in the opposite direction. So it's the heat is circulating there. So the venous blood that is flowing outward, it gives the heat to arterial blood, and that's why the heat is going back to the red muscle. Okay, does it work? It looks very simple. And in 99% of the teleost fish, the body temperature is exactly the same as in the environment. So if you have, for example, crucian carp and moving, all the heat that is produced in the skeletal muscle is lost in the environment. And that's why the temperature in the muscles is exactly the same as the temperature in the water. So it's on the isothermal line. And in most tunas even, the red muscle temperature is kept about 1 degree Celsius more than in the environment. And as you can see that in the yellowfin tuna or skipfin tuna, the steepness of this curve is exactly the same as in the isothermal line. So it's always 1 degree Celsius higher. That's enough to produce more contractility and fast contractility and swim a little bit faster, but it's no thermoregulation. But then, in comparison, we have bluefin tunas that are compensating the water temperature in these red muscles, and that's why their temperature is decreased only slightly in cold. So colder the temperature is, the better this counter current heat exchange is working, and that's why the red muscles are cooled down only slightly. Even in 10 degrees Celsius, it might be 27. So that's why this blue tuna in this part of this one organ is completely endothermic. And in some cases, they are also heating up intestine, brain, and eyes. And always with the same mechanism, countercurrent heat exchange. And these tunas are not the only group with endothermy. In teleost, which means that they have bones. In teleost fish, over here in the tunas, they are the ones that are doing this endothermy in these red swimming muscles. But we have also billyfish and butterfly marker. So we have some animals that are heating up the brains and eye with a small muscle that is touching in the eye and causing the movements of the eye. And it's called over here in the picture as superior or lateral rectus muscle. And it's doing the thing that, okay, it's moving the eye. And the interesting part is that, okay, it's doing it in a different way. It's having a short circuit of calcium ions. And this can be compared in the uncoupling of protons in the mitochondria. So, but now, most probably on the cell surface, the calcium is pumped on the other side of the membrane, and then it's leaking back. Or it might be also that, for example, in the endoplasmic reticulum, inside the intracellular storages, you can circulate the calcium. And of course, use a lot of energy for this calcium pumping, but at the same time, you can heat up the whole brains and the eyes. But we also have endothermy and homeothermy in insects. So we started this section to think that, okay, we have bumblebees that are unable to fly if the temperature of these flying muscles is too low. And these flight muscles are in thorax, and they produce more heat than the mammals or birds when the bug is flying. And how they can produce more heat than mammals or birds, it's because they have more mitochondria. And because they have mitochondria, they are rely only on this oxidative catabolism. And this thoracic homeothermy is kept only during the flight. So they heat up these flight muscles during the flight, but then they cool down when they are resting. And that makes it quite interesting that, okay, there's both temporal and spatial heterothermy. So then in the flying insect, only one part of the animal is hot. And then even that part of the animal is cold when it's resting. And for example, in a Sphenox mold, which is a very large insect, so the diameter of these wings is about 10 centimeters. It has a very high thoracic temperature. Even at almost 10 degrees of Celsius, it's still about 37 degrees of Celsius in these flight muscles. So it can maintain it pretty constant temperature. So it's pretty much like homeothermy, and especially definitely endothermic. But it's not the only one. It also works in the honeybees. So in the flying honeybees, this thorax temperature can be kept around 35 degrees Celsius, whereas the rest of the body follows quite nicely on the isothermal line. And because the temperature of these muscles are kept high, also the metabolic rate is kept constant. So it doesn't anymore depend on the temperature during these summer temperatures, so from 20 to 35 degrees Celsius. So it's not working like a typical ectotherm that, okay, colder it is, then lower the metabolic rate is. But now the metabolic rate is completely constant. But the thermoregulation or thermogenesis in these insects is quite much limited in the honeybees. So the majority of the insects cannot produce enough heat, or if they are producing the heat with the minimal muscles, it will be completely lost. So it's a smaller insects. This is completely impossible. But it also works when you are not flying, Because in the beginning we started that, okay, you have problems that you can't start flying before the wing muscles are heated up. And these, for example, in honeybees, they can't fly if the temperature is below 30. And that's why they are vibrating the wings before flapping to warm up the muscles. Sometimes this is called shivering, but because shivering also means the shivering in the mammals, so it might be a little bit better to use this vibration. And this vibration can be also used to keep the brood hot and alive. So for example, the queen bumblebees is using more oxygen in cold temperatures because it's more vibrating the wings to maintain the broods warm. Thank you.